On Friday, the Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Oneidge Walrond, outlined a series of measures relating to Guyana's new Tint policy. Joining me in studio to have a conversation surrounding this policy is none other than Minister Oneidge Walrond herself. Minister Walrond, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Shaquan.
So, there have been a few questions in the public domain, particularly relating to the emphasis now that's being placed on tint. Can you share with us why this emphasis now, and if it has its origin in your coming into office?
Right. So, as you know, we came into office on campaigning on a set of promises to our people. And across the board, one of those promises was that we will make the delivery of government services more predictable, free from human bias as much as possible, because we know the ills of that when we have too many people involved in this decision making. And so it is in that basis that when I assumed office, one of the things that I've noticed, and there are many things, there are many other initiatives and measures and reforms that are going to come in this sector, but one of the things that we're speaking about the tint, on the first day I was greeted with a large stack of requests for tint waivers, and also with not only the stack of papers, with the requests, people reaching out saying what is the process, how do I get a tint waiver, I need a tint on my vehicle, how do I go about getting it, I have a skin condition that I need this, or I'm involved in transporting monies and I need to feel secure in my vehicle, how do I get a tint waiver that I will need to understand the process. Clearly, this confusion lend itself to lots of unscrupulous persons manipulating the system for their own benefit, taking advantage of citizens who are unclear of the way in which they can access this waiver. And the already government looks inefficient, because it is when those kinds of confusion and things happen. And so almost immediately, we had a consultation with the Guyana Police Force speaking about why has there not been permission for people to have tint on their vehicles? What is the basis of that policy that existed before? And when we examined it, we realized that there really was the issues that they thought was connected to the having a tint on the vehicle, which is encouraging crime. Realize that the data did not correlate, that it did not substantiate the fact that if you have a tint on your vehicle, that you are likely to be involved in criminal activity. And also, in addition to the fact that with the climate change and UV exposure, realizing that being open and being exposed to UV exposure was in fact unhealthy. And so there was no basis of which we could hold back not giving citizens the permission to have tint on their vehicles. And in fact, it was the public sentiment that this is something that we want. We want our vehicles to have the tint so we can feel protected. And so we drafted the law, the amendments to the bill based on the policy, on the policy that everyone should have access to a tinted vehicle, to put tint on their vehicle, remove the whole burden on the system of people having to seek to get a waiver, and hence making the process transparent, predictable, because the citizen now no longer needs to apply for a tint waiver. Across the board, every motor vehicle owner is allowed to have 35% tint on their windows and 70% tint on their windshield.
70%?
70% on their front windshield.
Okay.
you've seen so that is less, it is lighter than the 35%, but certainly offers protection. It is not safe to have a heavy tinted front windshield, which is what we have seen as well. So this is just one in a slew of different measures that are implementing to respond to public sentiment, to make our citizens' lives less burdensome, and to make them less open to bad actors and people who would want to behave unscrupulously to take advantage of the system.
So this particular policy is not in response to any particular incident or anything of that sort?
Oh, no, not at all. This was plainly in response to the fact that what the public wanted, and the fact that when I assumed office, that it seemed to be a very inefficient way to address a basic what has become a basic need of the electorate, of the populace, that they want to have tint on their cars, and the fact that that the office was being inundated with so many requests. And so when people are asking for something overwhelmingly, you have to find a way as government to deliver it efficiently, transparently, in a predictable manner, especially when they're asking for something that is safe and is something that is not harmful.
You mentioned in your opening statement that there were some requests from individuals, particularly for medical reasons, and you pointed out in your 3 categories, or in your statement, that there are specific categories.
Yes.
Are these people also included in that conversation?
Right. So there are going to be categories of persons who are going to be exempt from this 35%.
Okay.
They are going to be allowed to have the percentage that is higher, lower. When the lower the percentage, the darker the tint.
Right.
These persons will be government officials, security related personnel, people, higher ranking security members, diplomats. These are all going to be exempt, these categories of person. And then there are going to be categories of persons with medical conditions that is within the discretion of the minister to grant the waiver of this 35%. So certainly those category of persons will be included, will be considered. They have to have a certified medical condition. So it's not just the citizen suddenly coming up and alleging, that the sun hurts my eyes and so I need to have it. We're trying to make the system fair across the board, so that it applies to everyone equally and fairly.
Minister, let's talk about this compliance period that you mentioned in your opening statement. You said that there's going to be this period up to December 31. What should Guyanese understand by that, and what should be the posture of the Guyana Police Force in this particular period?
Right. So this is the period in which those who forbeared and having their tint, couldn't put the tint on their vehicle because they didn't know how to get permission. They didn't want to do it illegally. So those persons are able to put on their 35 or less tint if they wish. The compliance period also will apply to persons who have this very dark tint, the tint that is not within the limit of 35%, to remove those and to get themselves in compliance by putting the 35% and the 50 and the 70% on their windshield, giving them that period on which they are able to do so. And in the interim, the Guyana Police Force is expected to forbear on all enforcement to get people this grace period to comply. Thereafter, after the 31st, then the strict enforcement will commence.
And I want to talk about that strict enforcement for a second. What can Guyanese expect that to look like after December 31?
Right. So the regime is, well, for one, there will be tint meters. The police officer will have specific meters to test your tint on the spot. And if you're found not to be in compliance, then there will be a heavy fine of $75,000 being levied for not having your tint in compliance. $75,000, yes.
Excellent. Can you tell us, going forward, how this policy will manifest itself in a legislative amendment to the Motor Vehicle and Draft 5102, Chapter 5102? What can Guyanese expect in that regard in terms of an updated legislation to govern this?
So we will go take the amendment to Parliament. In the amendment, we will outline the regime and on which how we're going to execute the compliance. We will outline the categories of persons that will be exempt from the thing, which I've already mentioned, diplomats and government officials and security, etc. It will outline how enforcement will be rolled out in terms of the tint meter, how that is be calibrated, how that's going to be executed, the fine period for the fine. So it's going to outline the entire regime, compliance and enforcement in the amendment.
Excellent.
And it's most of it is already drafted with a few adjustments that we have already made. Like I said, this was something that we have looked on. It's one of those, in my view, it was low-hanging fruit. People wanted it. The public sentiment was there, and it overwhelmingly makes the lives of our citizens easier, which is exactly what we had promised as a government.
And you did say, and I think rightfully so, that Guyanese will welcome this policy. In your portfolio, there are a number of other agencies that are there. Can Guyanese also expect a similar aggressive approach to amending policies that they may want to see in the future? Is your ministry and your government working on that as well?
Absolutely. We're working on delivering a fair, secure system of security and security governance to our people. We are looking to all of our people. Citizens deserve to feel safe, deserve to know that we are continue to make investments and making sure that their lives are secure, their lives are safe, that they have that quality and standard of living, that they are able to walk the streets, not being afraid of whether they will return home, whether because of bad traffic, bad driving. And so we are addressing all of these issues. There are going to be other changes and adjustments made in the road traffic legislation as well that deals with enforcement of other road traffic laws. And throughout the sector, there will be measures. There continue to be the expansion of the Safe City program, which sees the implementation of technology to make sure that our citizens are safe. We've already seen with the bombing incident how the technology was able to be deployed and very quickly solve those crimes, and we've seen many serious crimes being solved as a result of our investment in our Safe City and Safe Country program, use of the CCTV, facial recognition, and the technology. And we've seen that it has actually become a deterrent to many persons who might have been have the criminal proclivity, because serious crime is actually down by 25% in our country, and I believe it is a large part the investment that government has been making in the security sector. So we'll continue to make those kinds of investments, make the changes that technology and adjustments in our legislation that technology will demand, but continue to deploy technology so that we can remove human biases, remove the human intervention and that causes a lot of friction and causes problems, and make sure that our systems are fair and transparent. So we're doing it across in immigration, in the prison system, in fire. We're making sure that our systems are more efficient, just with the sole goal of delivering a secure and safe country for all of our citizens.
Minister Walrond, I want to thank you so much for spending the last few moments here in studio with me. Anything that you want to say finally to Guyanese, particularly in relation to this new Tint policy?
I think we've said it all. Just that the Guyanese people know that you continue to have a government that will respond to your needs and to your concerns. And while this is just one of many policies and programs and initiatives that is geared to respond to you, respond to the needs of you and your families so that you will feel safe, secure, and ultimately live in a prosperous society called Guyana.
Minister, thank you so much. You've heard there from the Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Oneidge Walrond. Stay tuned as we continue to bring you more updates of this nature right here on NCN. My name is Shaquan Gill, and I'm saying goodbye for now.